LSU at this point, it truly, in my opinion, feels like they have to make the college football playoff simply because of how much they spent. And I know that feels like egregious expectations because of nobody should have to feel like they guarantee make the college football playoff. But I've been on record saying multiple times, Ole Miss was a failure last season. You invested so much to put all your eggs in the Jackson Dart basket to go on a postseason run. And you went 10-3 and you lost to Kentucky in week 5. LSU has the quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier. They have weapons. They have, I think, a decent offensive line. They're going to have a second-year offensive coordinator. They're also going to have a better defense underneath Blake Baker. They went out and they spent money. Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton. They brought in Tamarcus Cooley. They feel good about the linebacker situation. They'll get back a healthy Weeks at some point. They'll get back Harold Perkins at some point. They feel better about where they are in the secondary. And so it's like, I feel like that they have to make the college football playoff in 2025. But in your opinion, how do they make the college football playoff in 2025?
Yeah, I think it's taking that next step defensively in year 2 under Blake Baker. I mean, they've done enough stuff. They've gotten rid of Sage Ryan, who'd been on the roster, just could never fit into any kind of spot in that secondary, whether it's safety or the nickel spot. I've heard the Mansour Delane kid, the transfer from Virginia Tech's been really good from somebody high up in LSU's building that they loved him a lot. I think Jack Pyron, kind of a PBR or DPR, I should say, designated pass rusher. See if Patrick Payton can do something. You mentioned him too, Bear. Yeah, it'd be the defense because I believe the offense – the most important spot going into the year, I think we'd all agree he's the most accomplished quarterback, Nussmeier, in the league right now. We'd still like to see him take that next step, but I don't think he really has to take that next step for them just to get to the playoffs. For them to win it all, yeah, I think he would have to take that next step. But just to get to the playoffs, I think they could be better around him a little bit, surround him a little bit, get some more winnable plus players through the portal like they have, or some think they have, but they've tried to address it. I think that could get in the playoffs. National championship's another step, but why they could, or if you told me why they did, Bear, I think it would certainly be an improvement on the defensive side of the ball in year 2 for Blake Baker.
Can they run the football? That's to me, that's what it all comes down to. Can you run the football?
So you think if they're just as bad defensively and they run a little better, though?
I don't. I think if you had enough defensively last year and you were able to at least put up a decent rushing attack, you would have been, I think, 10-2 or at least 9-3. I truly do. Because of, the injuries did eventually hurt you. And you were still indoctrinating your culture. But I think that they can still have a slightly improved defense. If you can stop the run, that's a big time deal because it eliminates one major element of a factor that hurt you last year. But this was an LSU team that ranked 89th and averaged less than 83 yards per game on the ground. And they had multiple running backs. And how many times do you watch as Caden Durham had several breakaway runs? He looked really, really good in the game against Oklahoma. He looked really, really good in the game against Baylor. He looked really good in the game against against Florida. They lost against Florida. They barely were able to do anything against Ole Miss's run defense, and they found a way to win that game in double overtime because of the passing attack. Like, it bothers me when people talk about Garrett Nussmeier because I do think that there is a ceiling with him. I don't know if that means from an NFL perspective or a college perspective, but I'm willing to go ahead and drink the Kool-Aid and say he's QB1 in the SEC for 2025. I have no issue with that. I also think that when you look at what Brian Kelly was able to address this offseason in terms of personnel, they got a speed threat at wide receiver, Barian Brown. They got a vertical threat at wide receiver, Chris Hilton. They have a slot receiver in Aaron Anderson. They have a big-time body receiver in Nick Anderson. They have weapons at tight end. They have, I think, an offensive line that will be good, but not great like it was last year. And I think that the defense is adding in pieces, like you already said. Jack Pyburn, he may end up being the Trey Moore of LSU this year. Pass rushing specialist, comes in on third down and second down, gets to the quarterback. Patrick Payton, I think, is a better fit for this defensive front. I like what they have at the linebacker spot. You already mentioned Minor. What about Tamarcus Cooley at safety? He may end up having one of the big breakout seasons. They landed, what's his name, from Houston not too long ago, Colley. So It's like, all the things are there to where defensively they should be improved. I'm not saying elite. I'm not saying great. I'm saying improved. But if you can't run the football and you are simply just a team that is going to have to rely so heavily on Garrett Nussmeier 45 times a game, uncorking it for 375, you're not going to the playoff. So in my opinion, if you want to be able to go to the playoff and actually be a threat in the playoff, you have to run the football. and you have to be able to consistently move the chains on the ground. If they do that, they may win the SEC. I am very high on what LSU can be this year, but you got to run the football. You have to run the football.
Yeah, my reason why they would not. Yeah, that's my concern. I think a lot of people were overlooking the spot you're just talking about, Bear. I think it's the offensive line spot. Again, I think some of the running issues they had last year is they wouldn't commit to it from a play calling standpoint more than they didn't have the dudes up front to do it. This year it could be, I don't know if you have the dude to be a little bit of a stretch, but this could be a unit that is pretty average, or at least on the very interior of this group. That's the line. That's the group I'm really watching. I'm like you, Bear. I think inevitably they're going to be better on defense. I think they are. That's why I think if you told me they made the college football playoff, that's why I'm like, well, the defense is going to be improved. I kind of expect that. The offensive line, I'm still very, very, very hesitant about. I mean, DJ Chester is really the only name, and mix in a little bit of Paul Mubenga, and that's it of some guys that have played. Cohen Eccles, Weston Davis, Tyree Adams, all those guys still have some stuff to prove. Again, Nussmeier wasn't touched a lot last year. It's because he had a really good offensive line in front of him. The best pass pro blocking offensive line in the entire country with Emory Jones and Will Campbell, as we all know. That could change a little bit, especially on the interior, where, again, like I always say, you talk to any college quarterbacks, any professional quarterbacks that have played in the NFL, they would much rather face an edge rusher than a guy on the interior that can be disruptive and push your offensive lineman to their feet. That makes them uncomfortable. You can always go adjust scheme, step up into the pocket from an edge rusher. LSU's interior offensive line would be my concern on why I don't think they would make the playoffs if it got bad.
I'm the same. We don't have to spend that much more time on this because I'm the same. Because it also factors in when it comes to running the football. If you don't have a good interior offensive line to open up holes, then you're going to have a trouble with anybody. It could be Caden Durham. It could be Aaron Anderson. You could be having Garrett Nussmeier on a design run. And I think we got to give a little bit more credit to Garrett Nussmeier's athleticism. He may end up being one of the more sneaky dudes that is not afraid to watch the field, survey, looking for open receivers, tuck and run, and then he's 25 yards down the field. We've seen him before move. So I think we got to give a lot of credit there.
Yeah, I like his ability to play within the pocket. I'll say that.
I also like his improvisation.
Extending plays, but I'm like give him credit for that last year.
I think the other thing is that he is relentlessly unafraid, and the way he plays is ice in his veins. I mean, like literally never was phased on a 4th and 5. Gotta have it against Ole Miss. Touchdown pass to Aaron Anderson. Like he plays a certain brand of football that I want my quarterback, but part of the reason why he was so unfazed last year is because if he was sacked 16 times, that offensive line is not the same. And so we talk about regression all the time in this sport. And sometimes it's a player and other times it's a personnel. For my opinion right now, it would be LSU's personnel on the interior offensive line. They don't have the right guys blocking up front to give you that separation when it comes to running the football, putting yourself in a prime position to be able to play with the play action pass, with the RPO. And now you're forced to have to play an up-tempo style of offense where you don't have the weapons that are going to be able to create that separation.
Bear, who do you like in that week one, man? I mean, that's the biggest mismatch by far in that game, especially when you factor in the games on the road for LSU's offensive line. That for TJ Parker, Peter Woods, DeMonte Capehart. Geez, first game on the road.
If you told me I get LSU's wide receiver core with Garrett Nussmeier, I still like LSU. But I don't like the fact that they have to go up against, in my opinion, probably a top 5 defense in college football, and they're doing it in their backyard. Like that.
Week one. That's a big ass.
And by the way, I know we got a lot of South Carolina people that watch this channel, but if you haven't already, make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe. That way we continue to know what you want to talk about. But there is a certain content creator, you know who it is, who recently ranked Clemson number 1. Guys, in this year, it's not that far-fetched of a take. Clemson's returning production offensively and defensively with their schedule in the ACC. If they can set the tone against LSU week 1, there's a legit factor that says that they might be the most complete team in college football. Now, do I believe that? No, I don't. But do I also see what?
Go ahead, Bear. Sorry. No, I was going to say Clemson. I just think the schedule's so beneficial. It's like, but you're right. I think they could be living on that LSU win for a while.
But do I think that they have the personnel when it comes to returning quarterback, returning wide receivers, a legit wide receiver room, decent rushing attack?
They're by far, wouldn't you say, they're by far the biggest Power 4 favorite in the conference.
In my opinion, the way that we used to talk about Alabama and Georgia being the clear-cut favorites in the SEC.
How we used to talk about Clemson for
It,
the last
fair.
3 or 4 years.
But the way that I felt like Alabama was just a living juggernaut that would just completely suck the soul out of you, that's how I feel about Clemson in the ACC. Like, I have them as number 5, and I still feel like I undersold them in my rankings this year. And that's me being saying, like, I don't think that they probably belong at number 2 or number 1, but 4 is not that far-fetched. Like, I have Penn State at number 1. Most years, I think that Penn State probably doesn't belong in that conversation. I don't. I think it's a joke that I have to go that far. But you start running out of excuses on why they don't belong there. Clemson has an opportunity to beat LSU. And it's not because of, oh, it's Brian Kelly is an overrated coach, or, oh, LSU just doesn't win week 1. No, it's because Clemson is a good enough team. Like, a lot of people just have to accept the fact that they may have an ACC patch, but they are a good enough team to beat LSU. They are. Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I think they're favored, I think, by what, 2.5, 3 right now.
I think 2.5 right now.